Hello, everybody. It's good to be back with you. Today, we're going to talk about a very serious topic, and the topic is earnestness. And we're going to bring it up because, well, my guru, if I had one, would be Nisargadatta Maharaj. And at one point, he stated that the only thing you needed in order to realize was earnestness. Just don't let go. Betsy talks about us when we'll get on the technical aspect of the computer, we're both lost or whatever. But as she will say, we have dogged determination. And that's not a bad definition of zeal either, right? Because there's a lot of zeal here for the living method. And so I'm interested in presenting it to as many people as possible, just because that's what this unit does, not because I made up my mind to do it. Hell, I didn't make up the teaching either. It just arrived here. It's a lucky unit, but it's not a special unit. Don't get any ideas that this is, you don't have to hold this in like great high regard. I'd appreciate it if you respected it, but you know, if you don't, you don't. But please respect the teaching. And that means give your attention to this teaching. And this is part of this teaching, as these YouTube videos are almost 300. And and all of them are clear, every single one. Some of them, there was greater clarity. There's greater clarity now than there was when I started cutting videos, but every single one of them is clear because every single one of them has come from the same place, which is not this. It came through this, but it was not this that is doing these videos. I can promise you that. I listen to some of these, that my real guru is this. I listen to the videos that I cut and they clear me up. They answer questions that I didn't know about. And this is bizarre, but that's just the way it works. I could not find the teacher that I found that I could resonate with, just like I was born to learn about, was Nisargadatta Maharaj, and how I wish that I had been able to meet him and sit with him. But, that was not to be, but I have the next best thing, which is I know that his spirit, so to speak, is with me, and it's in all of his books and in everything that he does and did. And so I think that there is a great enthusiasm and earnestness here for Nisargadatta Maharaj. So seriousness and zeal in intention, purpose, or effort is the definition of earnestness. One of the problems we have in being earnest is that we have an honesty problem. That's the truth. Throughout non-duality, there's a problem of honesty. And this goes to well-meaning teachers. I don't mean teachers who sleep with their students or rob their students or do anything else. People, ethical teachers who believe themselves enlightened and give instruction on that, and maybe they're very helpful. Lots of them are very helpful. That's good. You can be very, very helpful without being a true awakened being. But the problem is that you can't really get this thing unless you are honest. You have to be honest with yourself. Your teacher may or may not be. If they're well-meaning, great, but they may or may not be being honest and earnest with you. In other words, there may be some self-interest there. There's some self-interest here. Don't think there's not. And there's ego here. Don't think there's not. This teaching comes through this unit, but it has not yet completely cleaned up this unit. Although I must say it is undeniably and unquestionably much more skillful than it was 16 years ago. But that doesn't mean it's graduated. The unit is never going to graduate from the clearing of Fred patterns, because this unit itself this is Fredness itself. Even the looks of this unit, that's Fredness. There's no Fred, but there's Fredness. And this morning when Betsy and I were in strength training, I looked over at her and I said, well, I can see that that the patterns are working, but I'm not here. And what I meant by that is that the patterns of exercising were present, because when the exercising would stop and it was break time and I was talking to our coach, then what would happen was I noticed I was exercising while I was doing it, because I had stopped and I had still had my hands on something and I was exercising with that. And I noticed it like 2 or 3 times. Every time I was supposed to stand still, right? I just continued to exercise. It was crazy. And we laughed about me trying to get extra credit and all of that. But what was really happening was the body was there to exercise. And the patterns know what they're supposed to do. The body has its own intelligence. Believe me on that. The body has its own intelligence. It knew exactly what it was supposed to do. And it went there to exercise. And by God, it was going to exercise. And it wasn't going to be stopped just because the coach had called a break, right? But what I said, was that the patterns are here, but I'm still home. And what I mean by that is that there was not a lot of acute mindfulness on the exercising, and that would be a sin if this was a mindfulness teaching, but it's not. Mindfulness is interesting, but it's not really very, as a general rule, I wouldn't say it's freeing. I only say that because there are zillions of people studying how to be mindful and mindfulness of this and mindfulness of that. Whatever you're doing, concentrate on that. Get into the flow, be the flow, et cetera, et cetera. But, this many people out of the crowd are what, are actually realizing. So here, we're not paying a lot of attention to mindfulness, but we are paying a hell of a lot of attention to realization. And that's what happens here. This teaching pretty much just reverses the odds. And this is no brag. There's no one who's here to do it. There's no pride of ownership in the living method. I just noticed that it works like crazy, and it has been doing so for 16 years. But I did it long before there was a name for it. The name of the living method only came about in 2012, when it unveiled itself as a definitive pattern to follow in order to awaken units. And the way that happened was completely by accident. I mean, it was nothing I did. It was just something that occurred. I saw a very, very obvious thing that I could not believe had been overlooked for 6,000 years. But it had been. And so I closed that gap. And now almost everybody I talk to wakes up. I don't want to say everybody, because that's just not true, but almost everybody. And I can tell you that everybody that comes and avails themselves of the living method, who is able to tell themselves the truth when it is presented to them, will wake up. But if there's an inability to tell yourself the truth when it's presented to you, there's no awakening. No way awakening can happen, because the one who wants to be realized, the one who wants to be earnest, the one who wants to be honest, all of that, it is imaginary. It's an imaginary self. And what I want to do is tell you, I want to share with you Nisargadatta, not Nisargadatta, but a quote also from Ramana. And it's in here, if I can ever get my bulky hands to peel this paper. And I have neuropathy, and I'm losing feeling in these fingers and stuff. Just is what it is, but it does make things, more difficult sometimes. And this is from Ramana Maharshi. Whatever you see happening in the waking state happens only to the knower, and since the knower is unreal, nothing, in fact, ever happens. So this is a truth.
but it's not a truth that that unit can ever actually get or understand. It is something that there is something over there that understands it, but it's not that unit. This unit is dead meat. That unit over there is dead meat. All these units are dead meat, even the pretty ones that, you know, that are real lively and all that stuff, dead meat. That's the truth. And what I mean is that in the absence of the sense of being, in the absence of consciousness, then these things revert back to being what they are, which is dead meat. They can't do anything. Have you ever seen a dead body? Let me tell you, they don't get up and shake your hand. They don't do anything because they can't, because there's no consciousness there. And there is consciousness is just, it's sort of a byproduct of the birth of one of these, if you will, or the birth of one of these is the byproduct of a consciousness, but really they go hand in glove. They come together because there can't be consciousness without a unit, and there can't be a unit without and there can't be a unit without consciousness. So, I mean, the consciousness is just what happens when one of these is born, and one of and vice versa. So, earnestness is telling ourselves the truth. And what I want to tell you, the truth that most people are unwilling to tell themselves over and over again, is they're unwilling to tell themselves the very difficult idea. They're unable to accept the truth that there's nobody home. Let's just say people call you Bob. There's no Bob over there. There's a unit, I'll grant you that. And people call that unit Bob. But why do all the people call that unit Bob? Because that unit went around and said, "Hi, I'm Bob. Call me Bob." And there were few objections. So people call that unit Bob. But just because they're calling it what you asked them to call it doesn't make it so. I mean, where did you get the idea for that? I mean, you got it from hearsay as well, didn't you? You got it from your parents. So just because you bought into the story that your parents sold you that you're a Bob doesn't mean that you are a Bob. It means that that unit is something we refer to as Bob, but you are not that unit. The body is not me. The body is not me. This is the vital mantra for you to get hold of. The body is not me. The body is not me. But you don't say it over and over, fast, fast, fast. You say it slowly and with attention, yeah, with mindfulness, if you will. The body is not me. So this earnestness only comes. Another way that we could put this is another way that we can say that same thing, is to say that willingness. That's the word I typically use. That'll talk a lot about earnestness. That was Nisargadatta's word. I'll use it here, and I'll use it sometimes, but typically I talk about willingness because I think willingness is better understood. We kind of buy a good idea. You know, I'm willing to do this, but I'm not willing to do that. And all of that is a fantasy, but but that's the way it plays out in relativity. So we just go with it. So this playing out of relativity, it just happens. It's not happening because you manage it. It's happening because it manages you. You know, I had a dear friend of mine who wrote me this morning, and he's a great guy, and he has some understanding along these lines, but he's my best friend for 35, 40 years. And so, I mean, I just love this guy to death. I would do anything for him. And so he wrote me a thing this morning where he had received something by accident, and it said, "We are doing." And because that's his idea of non-duality, is there's just this doing that we are doing whatever we're doing, and that we are the doing.
right? And I just wrote him back and I said, well, that's pretty funny, but my way of stating that would be to say that we are being done. And that's the truth. And that's the truth of it, is that we are being done. That's not a difference of opinion between my friend and I, because his is an opinion and mine is not. Mine is grounded in truth. I promise you. I know that. Would never ever debate it to him, but I just kind of toss things out there in the hopes that one of the days that dolphin is going to jump up and catch the fish, right? So one day he may have a breakthrough. I would love to do it. He did have a breakthrough one time with me, a non-dual breakthrough with me, but over the phone. And it was like the day after that I woke up or something like that. It was within a day or two. And I was just on fire, and I talked to him, and he had a little non-dual experience there. I know, because he was, he reported it to me. It happened right after we talked. He took, what I told him is, go be by yourself for a little bit and just start noticing that what you're looking with is what you're looking for. I did not know that this was actually a famous pointer by St. Francis of Assisi, and I'm still kind of angry that he got it first, because I thought it was original and that I would wake up the world with that, but it's not original. And guess what? Mike is the only person that ever woke up from that, and he woke up from that. Why? Because there's such great resonance between he and I over 35 or 40 years, that when I told him what I told him with just all the truth and love that I had. And that's what the way it was received, and it was never questioned. So he just took that as a literal fact, which it is, and he didn't debate it or question it or test it or anything else, and awakening occurred. So earnestness is the willingness to tell ourselves the truth. It's the willingness to keep coming back and plugging it, telling the truth. And although this teaching itself is not big on meditation and specific practices or whatever it does have some practices that it recommends, because it's noticed that there seems to be a correlation between doing these things that I call practices and realization. But I don't understand it. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me, but there does seem to be a correlation. So I put them online. You can find those very easily by going to Google and just Google Fred Davis. The practice menu. And then read the notice that is right there on the practice menu. And what that notice will tell you is that these practices are you're not supposed to do these over and over and over again in order to bring you clarity in a make-believe future. Because that's when you're going to wake up, isn't it? Soon? How come, when is soon coming? How long have you been waiting for soon? I waited for soon for 24 years. You can wait for soon a long time, but you don't have to. You really don't have to. And this teaching makes it easy. It really does. I mean, I get email every day, and I get comments on YouTube too, from people who are waking up from this teaching. And I get thanks from the people who've been with me a while, because waking up is one thing and clearing is another. I had a YouTube comment today that said, wow, I had a realization this week, and a realization occurred, I should say. And he said, but then I lost it, and how can I get it back, or something to that effect. And he said, and then I found this video. And I had to ask him, he did inquiry. He had the earnestness to actually do what was suggested in the video. God Almighty. He did the inquiry, and people do, and they get results because of that earnestness. It's the willingness, because what is it? It's the willingness to be other than the way This is now. It's the earnestness, it's the earnestness and willingness for change to occur. I cannot make change occur. The practices that I give you do not make change occur. They encourage change. And they can bring about instant clarity. But all of these practices are about waking up right now. It's not in order for you to get a good dose of this and wake up in a week. It should not. And it's not to get you to get really grounded in this and wake up in 25 years. If you have been in this teaching for, actually, and when I say being in it, I mean coming to satsang, availing yourself of my videos, reading the books and all of that. And if you've been doing that for very long at all, and you don't feel a movement, well, then, go to find something you do resonate with, because this thing will reach out and grab you if this is your teaching. And you will go from being curious about what is realization. I want to know what that's really like. What would it be like for me? And you'll go from that to, I've got to realize, I got to wake up, I got to wake up. That's the way it will feel. And I didn't wake up until I had to wake up. It wasn't when I wanted to wake up. I could only wake up when I had to wake up. And I had to have a great deal of misery in the Fred life before that I could come to recognize that all of this misery was not mine. It was the Fred units. The body is not me. I don't have any problems here. My dear friend Sailor Bob, who studied with Nisargadatta, by the way, has a wonderful book out there that I would highly recommend you read, but only if you want to get this thing clearly and easily. And the name of that book is What's Wrong with Right Now Until You Think About It. And it's a very simple book. Bob's teaching is incredibly simple, incredibly upfront. There's not a lot of mysticism involved in that. I mean, man, he just puts it to you. And he's an old sailor. He doesn't know he doesn't know about all this frilly mystic stuff, right? He's an old sailor. And he just tells it like it is. And that telling it like it is was instrumental in helping me to see the truth. It was. Or to see clarity, to see the truth to begin with, and then to gain clarity afterwards as I began to look at Bob's stuff more closely. He was not the direct teacher, because the direct teacher didn't exist. I didn't have one at the time of awakening. I had a teacher, a non-dual teacher. I'd had one actively, and then I had a couple of more passive non-dual teachers, people that I emailed back and forth with that knew me. And as a result of, I had a non-dual blog at the time, so I was not quite an unknown in this community even then. But I couldn't stick with any of them. And the reason is that they weren't like Bob. And Bob is so straightforward that you'll miss it. He's so simple that you'll miss it because you're trying to complex it up. The mind wants to dig in there and get this thing up. And it is like another quote that I have up on the website right now, which is just too good not to share with you. Here it is. Listen to this. Here is your problem. If you're not awake, if you're not awakened right now, if you don't know who you are, really know. And I don't mean know intellectually exactly. I mean know. There's just a knowing. There's not anyone that knows it. See, that's the difference between this and the intellectual understanding. Intellectual is very good, and intellectual understanding will turn out to be very helpful if and when you wake up. But the difference between that knowing and the knowing I'm speaking of is like, well, it's the difference between a map and the territory. That's what it is. So here's the quote. When you are infected with the I am the body virus, a whole universe springs into being. But when you have had enough of it, you cherish some fanciful ideas about liberation and pursue lines of action totally futile. You concentrate, you meditate, you torture your mind and body, and you do all sorts of unnecessary things. But you miss the essential, which is the elimination of the person. And the living method is all about that essential, not all the stuff in front of it. It's about that. It's about that essential. It is about seeing through, or it says there the elimination of the person, but actually that's not quite right. I'm guessing it's an error in translation, because you can't eliminate what's not here. And the one who thinks it's a seeker is an imaginary character. It's just a believed thought by awakeness, which sounds insane. And I can't say it's not insane, but that's the way it works. And awakeness is, I don't know if awakeness is or is not it doesn't feel to me like that there's a entity there, but I can't know. So, because I don't know anything. See, the true non-dual path, you'll know less and less and less as you go. And when we're coming into non-duality, we want to learn more and more and more. But the problem is we never get out of that. We never get out of that. And the wheel of learning more and more and more is the very wheel that stops us from waking up right now. Because the way we wake up is through unknowing. So we don't have to eliminate a character. The character is eliminated upon the recognition that there isn't one. See, we cannot eliminate what isn't here. And there's no character here. There's no Fred Davis. There's no awakened Fred Davis. There's no unawakened Fred Davis. There's no Fred Davis with, a studio. It looks like you're looking at it, but you're looking at yourself. Hello, oneness. Here's some honesty. There's only oneness. Now, I have people that get confused over this oneness thing. I swear to God, I do. And the sense is, well, I understand what he's saying intellectually. And what I want to tell you is, no, you don't. It's just not my experience. Yes, it is. So this idea that I understand this, but it's just not my experience, get over it. That's a lie. Quit lying to yourself. Come out of denial. God almighty, I see I'm going to get riled up again. I get riled up at ego, and my sessions can sometimes be tough if I've got somebody that's resisting the obvious. And I know everybody comes in resisting the obvious, but once they've been shown the truth, if they're just really balking at that, it just drives the unit crazy, because this unit's job is to offer awakening. It is to offer awakening in as skillful a manner as possible. I was going to try to contradict that, but that's the truth of it. This unit is offering awakening. It's offering it to you right now. So if we got a oneness and another oneness comes along, is that possible? No, because then you have to be two-ness, wouldn't it? Of course. And if I'm a oneness and I'm waiting for something else to happen, what else can happen? There's only this, always. There's only this. And we're waiting for an event for the unit so ego can be satisfied and say, I got it. I finally achieved enlightenment. And that is I finally achieved enlightenment is an announcement that I had a glimpse, but it's gone. Just like my buddy on YouTube, is that I could see, he said that when he watched one of my videos which was for those who have glimpsed the truth. That's the video he's talking about. It's written for exactly that, but it's written for everybody. But this guy in particular, in that situation, it's the exact situation, and it really helped him. But then he asked what? Then he asked a question from the character. I just can't figure out what to do with this. And I had to tell him, I mean, who in the hell are you talking about? Who is it that wants to do this? Who wants to fix the world or save the world or be the hero? Because that's what it really boils down to. I want to be the hero, and I want to be acknowledged to be the hero. I want to be the good guy. I want everybody to see that I'm the good spiritual one, and they may be pretty good themselves, but they can't come up quite to my level. Although keep coming back, and maybe you'll get to my level. God Almighty, isn't that the secret promise of spirituality? Well, you don't want to get to this unit's level because this unit knows nothing about non-duality. But this unit is non-duality because there's no separation between anything and anything else. So there's no one here to know something about non-duality. There's only non-duality. I mean, let's look at the word non-duality. Non-duality, not to. Advaita means not to, not to, not to, not to. So there's someone who's looking for something else. And that is the bubble of self-reflection. And the bubble of self-reflection is, I'm making a lot of progress, and it won't be long. I'm going to wake up here very soon. How long has it been so far? 35 years. You having any luck? Not one damn bit. Or maybe I've had glimpses, I've had scenes, and then I lose it. And that's a declaration that from an imaginary character. In other words, it's just believed thought. Just believed thought. That's all there is. And we can get into that in more detail. But what I want you to recognize right now is the thing that you think is you is not you. Because you think you are this body, and the body is not you. The body is not you. The body is not you. Earnestness means the willingness to come back here. The earnestness means the ability to come to satsang and maybe to have your precious ideas torn to pieces and not be angry about that, because this unit's job is to crush egos. That's what it's for. You can have it back and it'll grow back just fine, but that is this unit's job, is to crush egos. And I make that very clear in everything that I write. So, and the website's all about it. And it's because what's stopping us, and what is ego? There's not like a hard little round thing out there called ego that's in the way. It's just patterns of thought. There's no ego in the middle. It's just like there's no mind. There's just thought. You can't find an empty mind anywhere. There's no such thing. There's just this. There's just this. What do we mean by just this? You think we might mean just this? Surely not, right? God Almighty. There is only this, but you are not limited to being this. This manifestation is not other than you. But you are not, but it is not equal to you. And everything that you look at, it's not you in one sense, and it is you in another. It's not you because you don't have any form. You are you are the formless. You are that which has no form. You are that which does not move. You are that, whatever the hell that is. We don't know. That's the mystery, but we can get so close to the mystery that we can resonate with it very strongly, and that changes lives. It does. Come to satsang. It changes lives. Come to satsang. It changes lives. I sit here and I talk about this every week, and I say, come to start every time I do a video. Come to satsang. And one or two of you will just come into satsang newly, or or maybe three or four. But the vast majority of you will not come to satsang. And the ones who come, unfortunately, some of them don't stay. And why is it? Because it requires earnestness to utilize the very, very simple teaching that is available here. That works well over 90% of the time, 95% of the time, or whatever. It's not everybody that I talk to, but it's damn close. But it's so easy, so simple. It's so obvious. I know you hate hearing that. I hated hearing that, even though it's true. But the difference is that I'm not just telling you that, I'm willing to show you that. Go back and look at these videos. They're free, but come to satsang. Go back and read the website. There's hundreds of good posts on the website. All you have to do is search a topic, or search, for, go back and just go through one by one. You can roll right past them, and you can find many text articles there. It's all free. Utilize that, but come to satsang. If you want to go to retreats and all that, that's great. Do that, but come to satsang. The satsang that this teaching presents is completely unlike any satsang that you have ever been to. And I know that because over the years, I've had how many people, thousands, show up for satsang, or hundreds, probably thousands, or somewhere around there. I don't know. A hell of a lot of people have showed up for satsang, and not one of them has said, boy, this is pretty much like the other satsang. People who resonate with this teaching, they come and they hear it, and usually they hear it on YouTube, and they begin to follow up on that. So if you're watching this on YouTube, so follow up on it. Go and look up Awakening Clarity Now. Look up Fred Davis Spirituality. Google The Living Method. Fred Davis, particularly Fred Davis, The Living Method. God, you'll get hundreds of thousands of hits. I mean, I am all over the internet. I'm not at the forefront of non-duality in terms of having a vast following, because this teaching comes back down to working one-on-one or with small groups. And because the teaching is growing, I'm going to have to work more and more with small groups. But there's having a sage right there. Whoo! Come to satsang. It's the best advice I can give any seeker, I swear to God. It's every Sunday at 2:00. Go to Awakening Clarity. You can find out more about it. You can write Betsy and I at fredsdavis@gmail.com. Fred S. Davis, S as in Sam, Fred S. as in Sam, Davis at gmail.com. You can write us. I mean, hell, we don't hide anything. We're right here, And what we will do, but we can't answer a bunch of questions. What we can do is we can hook you up with satsang. We're not going to answer a bunch of questions. God Almighty, I don't have time to teach the ones I've got, much less taking on all of you. But I can. But this teaching will find everybody that it's supposed to. And what if it's supposed to find you and you're not willing? Ooh, what if you're not earnest enough to avail yourself of this? Then you will have gotten that close to awakening, and then you left. You quit. In AA, they used to say, don't leave right before the miracle happens. And I would say that about satsang and this teaching. At any rate, subscribe, hit the little bell. Please subscribe, hit the little bell. And by God, I'll see you soon. I love you. Bye-bye for now. I think I'm going to have some short videos in between now and the next one. So that's the game plan. We'll see what happens. Bye-bye.